This is my journey. Inspired one story at a time, a library of leaders was created. It began as a journey to learn. As time went on, it began to grow. All it needed was a platform, and this podcast was created to listen, to inspire, to share. I am a storyteller, and this is my journey. Welcome to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. I'm your host, Steve Anderson, and today our guest is Jordan Peace, and he is the CEO and co-founder of Fringe. Jordan's company, Fringe, built a platform around a powerful leadership philosophy. The traditional employee benefits model is broken because it doesn't treat employees like individuals. He argues that the key to modern leadership and team development is moving past future-focused, one-size-fits-all perks like 401ks and health insurance to provide personalized, immediate support through lifestyle benefits. This philosophy has allowed him to build a high-growth company while actively shaping a new type of organizational culture. So, Jordan, welcome to the program. It's great to have you on today.
Oh, it's great to be here, Steve. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry for such a long bio there. I'll tell him to cull that down next time.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty sure it's funny doing these podcasts. Some I get so long it's like, oh my gosh, and you have to come in. Others are just have a few things. So whatever works.
Yeah,
So
no one logged onto the podcast to hear a 2-minute bio, right?
exactly. Well, with that in mind, let's just start with some context. Give us a little background on where you grew up, where your company's based, and kind of how you got into this HR world that you're in now.
Yeah, so believe it or not, I grew up about a mile from where I'm standing, a little place called Mechanicsville, Virginia,
Okay.
which is outside of Richmond, which is where Fringe is headquartered. Um, but yeah, grew up here and went off to school. Actually, spent a year all the way in Australia, all the way overseas. So I have been places, but I came right back home. And
Yeah,
yeah, so Richmond, born and raised.
that's great.
Yeah.
So, when you started your career, did you start out in HR? Was that kind of your goal to begin with, so tell us a little bit about how you got into the business world and then why you
Yeah.
focused on this.
Oh, it was a windy road. So I came out of college and went right into a nonprofit religious organization for about 5 years. And I left that. And as you might believe, not a lot of people want to hire somebody with kind of unknown skills from a nonprofit religious organization because it's like, can you do a normal job, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I kind of was forced into full-time sales and working on commissions. I worked for Northwestern Mutual for a little while, learned how to sell insurance, and eventually got into the financial planning business. Jumped out, started my own financial planning business with a friend of mine who's now my co-founder and was a co-founder prior. And we got about 6 months into that business, and I had this idea for Fringe, which, with a shortened version of what the bio said, is insurance and 401k and all this stuff. They're great. It's just not all that relatable to a lot of employees because I either have to be sick, dead, disabled, or 65 years old to benefit from these things. And it's great. I'm glad they exist. And as a father of five, I'm thrilled with my health insurance, don't get me wrong. But what about today? And what about when things are going well? And so we had this idea for lifestyle benefits. We called it Fringe. And then from there, it's kind of morphed into this entire employee experience tool that it is now.
Well, I do have to admit you have the perfect name for an HR person. Peace. You want everybody to be peaceful and and feel good about what they're doing. So let's talk a little bit about it. So yes, we know the 401k benefits. Correct. It only benefits you when you retire, but when you get there, it's certainly nice to have, and but
Sure.
it's hard in your 20s and 30s to say, oh gosh, do I need to take money away from my family and put it in there? That's not an easy decision. And
Yeah, well, and it's also
yeah,
it's table stakes at this point. I mean, everyone expects a 401k and health insurance when they come into a full-time job. What else are you doing to help people feel like this is an especially great place to work,
yeah.
and really be attracted to your organization? That's where I think a lot of the value is for the types of programs that we run.
So I think the programs that you're talking about, and please expound on this a little bit, but
Sure.
it's so instead of just say, here's your benefit package for you employee, here is a menu almost, and you choose what works for you because what I may need may not be what you need, and so on.
Right.
And so that's kind of the philosophy, correct?
Yeah, it is. And, but for us, we're not doing traditional benefits to be really clear. So we don't sell health insurance or anything like that. We do what are called lifestyle benefits. And so our benefits are things that you might already be paying for. Like we've got benefits that are massage memberships to childcare services to a dash pass, so you can order food for lunch and not have to pay the delivery fees, right? Any the types of benefits that make life a little better today. Keep things simpler, maybe reduce stress, maybe impact my family in some positive way. And so when we started out in 2018, it was that. It was lifestyle benefits. And people really enjoyed that. Our customers really enjoyed that, but they said, well, we love this marketplace of services you have, but we wish that our rewards and recognition program could filter down into that same marketplace. Could you build rewards and recognition also? So we went out and we built that. So now you can get on the app and say, hey, Steve, thanks so much for helping me out on that project. And I can send you a message, send you a funny GIF. I can even send you some Fringe points, which you can go redeem on the marketplace for something that you want, DoorDash credit or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's just expanded from there into, you know, there's wellness challenges and steps challenges and all those sorts of things. We even manage the company swag, so you can get the company T-shirt and hat, and we do a lot of things on the software now because HR tech is in a place where it's really consolidating, and
Yeah.
like a lot is expected from each software company that remains in this very consolidated space now.
So explain it to me. So I'm the CEO of this company, and I figure that
Yeah.
we need to be a little more creative with our benefits to our employees. So
Yeah.
if I contact you and say, what can you offer me, then tell you what, how do I pay you? What does it look like? Just
Sure.
explain to me as, give me a little sales pitch here as the CEO of this company.
Sure. Yeah. So, we charge a $3 software fee per employee per month. That it's just a straight fee for a small company. If you're bigger than 10,000, it goes up to, or it goes down to $2 a head. And then kind of the mega companies, it's like
Yeah.
custom pricing. Like we'll figure it out based on just how mega you are exactly, right?
Uh,
And then beyond that, it's just whatever you want to fund into employees' accounts, that's what they'll have. We don't take a piece of that. There's no shaving it off of anything there. You give them $100, they have $100 in their Fringe account. And they go and they use that on the services and products that are most meaningful to them. The way in which that often happens now, though, is, and because, Steve, I don't remember the last time we sold a customer that wasn't already spending money on these things,
yeah.
right? It's a We're not going in asking for new spend almost ever. We're going in and going, hey, first of all, let's do the software math. You're paying for rewards and recognition software, wellness software, swag software, L&D software. That's $20 PEPM. We're going to charge you three. So you
Yeah.
already won, right? And then on top of that, we do all of those things and we do more things. And you're already spending on recognition, so just spend it here. And you're already spending on company swag, so just spend it here. So we're in a good spot these days because we're able to just point to the budget that's already being spent and go, just pull it over. We're not costing you anything new.
So you might be able to set up something like in the company that I used to run, we would have something like, say, for years of service. You would come in and say, okay, you've been with us for 5 years now. Here's a catalog of things that you can choose that is a gift for here. And 10 years would be something bigger and better, and 15 years would be something bigger and better. But
Yeah.
and you would set up those kind of systems.
Yeah, we would pre-schedule that and work with the kind of you on the catalog and what is it that you want to offer in those moments. But even that would be just a small part of what the software would
Yeah.
do. There's
Yeah.
also daily interactions and things going on as well.
Well, let's talk about a big
Yeah.
one. I mean, everyone in the country now is talking about daycare and childcare, and it's just
Mm.
gotten out of control.
Yeah.
Uh, Families are having such a tough time to afford this. How can you help a company attack this problem with services that can? I think most employees with kids would just love to have their hands on.
Yeah, and the thing is the services already exist. The issue is they're hard to disseminate to large populations of an organization. So if I've got 10,000 employees, then maybe 7,000 and 6,000 of those have children that are children, that are at home, and maybe 4,000 of those don't have a spouse that is at home full time, right? So I've already culled it down to a smaller population, and then only a smaller population of that will actually need the service. And so what the issue is, these services go to, let's just pick a company. They go to Amazon and they say, hey, we'll give you childcare services for all of your employees for X dollars a month per employee, or X cents, it would just be something really small.
Yeah,
But then the company is going to go get 10% utilization on spending for 100% of their people, many of which don't even have children. And so there's all this waste. There's all this cost to the company, and that's why they don't do it, you
mm,
know? So one of the advantages of the fringe marketplace is that a service like childcare services would just be an option, so that only the employees that actually need and want that can spend the company's dollars on that. They don't have
okay.
to have all this waste. So it's not the services that are the problem. It's really just like, how do you get really efficient with the funding to employees so that it's funneled exactly where it needs to go. But even if you do that well, to your point, the cost is out of control. And, let's be honest, it's an industry where I think they know they have us. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, hey, you got kids, you need to go work, you're gonna pay me. So like it's an industry where I don't think those costs are coming back down anytime soon. And I mean, we can talk about that more broadly. As a father of five, I got plenty of opinions there as well.
Yeah, for sure. So as an employee, I'm looking at this menu and I'm deciding what's best for me. What do you see are the most common things that people really latch onto and say this is a benefit that I think is good?
Yeah, I think their spending patterns are like really interesting to follow actually. Because you kind of have two types of fringe users, and I'm sure they're this way with their personal money too. They either like they'll get $50 for their birthday and they'll go in on their birthday and they will buy something that day. And then
Yeah.
we have other users that they save up dollars for years. They don't spend anything, and then they spend it all on Airbnb and a flight, and they just book a whole vacation, with the money that they saved up over time. And so I think in a lot of cases it's cost replacement. People are like, I brought up DoorDash earlier because I think people of, like, let's say 20 or maybe even 18 years old to like 45, there's a big group in there that are like avid DoorDash users. These people, they don't cook. They they either they go out to eat, they eat something really simple at home, or they order food on DoorDash, and they probably spend a couple $100 a month or more doing that. And so, you see a lot of that happening on Fringe too, where they're just like, you know what, I'm just going to put it right into this thing I'm already spending on, and now I'm going to spend a little bit less of my money, and my employers helped me out with that. That feels good. Um, so it's interesting following the trends, but I'd say it's travel, food, entertainment, categorically speaking, are like really the big three that we see.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so again, just so that I understand, so you're not necessarily coming up with what the travel is or it's more just an organization of funds and how the employee through software interacts with that to get those benefits.
Yeah, it's a marketplace. I mean, you could think like, just picture Amazon in your head, but just prettier to look at than in the Amazon site, but like, and far less choices, because it's really kind of curated into what are things that would actually give the employee this, like, VIP experience that would really feel like, man, my company bought this for me. That's really cool. Because what we're trying to do at the end of the day is not just give people cool stuff, but to elicit this feeling of like, my company takes care of me. I
Yeah.
want to stay. Yeah, that's the big picture. So it is very curated in that way for that reason.
I became aware of a company that had a program where, for instance, if I'm working on a team and you and I are working together and you just really did something impressive and had my back and did something that I could give you points. I could,
Yeah,
have so many points to give out each month and I could give you points. And then if
yeah.
those accumulate over time, then you can cash those points in for something that you want. Is that what we're talking about as well?
That's one of the things we do. Yeah, that's that we call that rewards and recognition, but
Yeah.
yeah, but that's one of about seven kind of core features.
Well,
Right.
I probably didn't do a very good job of that. So explain that program in more detail of what that would look like for in a company.
Yeah, so no, I think you actually did a pretty nice job. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of reasons why you would want to recognize an employee, right? It could be that they're a peer, like you described, like I just helped you on a specific day. We're peers at work, and you just want to kind of publicly or privately say through this platform, thanks. Great job. That was awesome. I appreciate you, whatever the message is. And then the reward element to that is you could also add into this public or private praise a gift, and the best way to do that gift is to give people points and then send them to a marketplace to choose what they want, as opposed to just going, thanks for helping me out, here's some flowers, and you're like, I don't even like flowers. So that's what the how the software is useful, because you could just give a person a call and say, hey, thanks, like, great job, like, you don't need software for that, right? But the benefit is you can make it public so that everyone can see that praise, and you can really recognize and kind of lift someone up in that way. And then also you're able to give a currency where they can go into a digital marketplace, and you know what I mean? So that's really where the value lies in rewards and recognition. That's a big part of a lot of companies these days, and kind of a key part of the culture of a lot of companies. So we built that pretty early on because we knew that that would be kind of a one of the key elements to a good piece of software for employee experience, which is how we look at ourselves.
So do you have any real life stories that you could share with companies you've worked with where they've come back and said, man, this is the return on investment and this is phenomenal for this reason and tell you stories. Tell us a couple stories of when it's really worked well.
Yeah, one of my favorites was really early on, maybe year two, and it was the evening after the platform had launched for this company. So we signed the contract and we did all the implementation steps, and we got to like launch day where the employees were going to get the email of like, welcome to Fringe and here are your points and this and that. And I remember she started off her email with, I've got some advice for you guys. And I was like, uh-oh, like, this is not going to be good. And she said, never, never let your customers launch this on a Monday, because all my employees did all day was talk about what they're going to use their fridge points on. I got no productivity. And she's just messing with us. Like, she's being funny.
Yeah.
But like, and she was like, so I just wanted to share, they absolutely love it. And I have never ever gotten as many thank yous. I've hardly gotten any thank yous in my career because HR is a thankless job, you
Yeah.
know. And I got a whole bunch of emails today that people are really excited and like, it feels good. And I'm like, well, that's just all I was going for. You know what I mean? That's like the perfect response. Um, Another funny story, we had this is a pretty big client actually. They launched, and so we have this curated marketplace I talked about, like all these things and that you can get with your Fringe points, right? It might be massage services, or it could be a subscription to candles, it could be a online fitness. I mean, it's all sorts of things, like a couple hundred things. And so this company, they decided that they were smarter than us, and they wanted to cull down the marketplace to less things, because a lot of things they didn't deem worthy as like being a benefit. And so we're like, all right, fine. So we culled it down to like 80 things instead of a couple hundred, and we launched it. and then some employee talked to a friend at a different company who also used Fringe, and they ended up comparing marketplaces.
No boy.
And the guy at this company found out he didn't have access to all the things that his buddy had access to. And then he asked about it and got not a straight answer, and then started a petition and got a bunch of people to sign a petition about, and it escalated real fast. And so we just stepped in, and I remember we just sent an email to all the employees, and we were like, "That's on us. Somebody clicked the wrong button. Here's everything." And we just kind of like took the beating to kind of save the customer, or to save the HR folks from having to kind of face that.
Yeah.
And they appreciated that. They've been longtime customers since then. But it's just neat. Like people are genuinely excited to use the software, and like that's everything I could want, as a software CEO. It's like it's actually enjoyable, because a lot of software is just like I just have to use it because I got to do stuff, but if you're actually excited to be there with your Fringe points and seeing the recognitions and being able to have all these tools to use, and you like it, then I love it.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I've been around quite a while and running companies. You know, it used to be the old HR scene was you got to treat everybody the same. You can't show any favoritism. It's all one for all for one, exactly the same. And
Right.
I think what you've exposed here and what you're building your company on is the fact that that just doesn't work.
Yeah.
For like what you said, what's real important to me, you may not care about at all, and vice
Yeah.
versa. So if you can have some type of choice, I've always believed that people do better when you give them choices, whether you're raising kids or working with employees. You know,
Yeah.
choices are good. People like choices. I, as a leader, people knew that when they came in with an idea, it's like give me some choices. We could do this, we could do this, or we could do this, you know, because I
Yeah.
like the choices, you know. So I think
Yeah.
that's human nature. So it's
Yeah.
interesting how the HR world, are they changing? Because that's kind of been an old, you know, the way it's always been type of thing to do in companies. And so this is
Yeah.
not necessarily new because I've seen it before, but
Yeah.
is it gaining popularity?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's a generational thing in my mind. I mean, you got multiple generations in the workforce now that grew up. I mean, do you remember the movie, sidebar? Do you remember the movie The Truman Show with Jim Carrey?
Yeah, I do.
Right? I
Yeah,
mean, the idea was everyone was watching his life. He didn't know about it, right? Eventually he gets out, and then that's equated with freedom. But we've got two generations of people who chose to live in the Truman Show since they were teenagers. They chose to expose pictures of themselves and videos of themselves, and like to have an image and a brand and all this stuff, like they don't think the same way as folks that didn't have that and think, I'm not trying to stand out. I'm not trying to, like, they feel pressure to be individuals. You know what I mean? To be like unique. And so choice for them is like native. Like, what do you mean I don't have choices? Like, they grew up going to Starbucks and given a 17-word description of the perfect drink is extra whip, half calf, mocha, choca, latte. Yeah, it's like it used to be small, medium, large. So like, it's
right.
just the world's changed so much that like the expectations of employees, right or wrong, and not it's not all good. Right or wrong is I'm gonna have choice. I'm gonna experience personalization and customization because that's what I experience in the marketplace. I should experience it in the workplace, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah.
Well, and talk a little bit about, you know, wellness too. Now, there's been some wellness options in this space for quite some time where
Yeah.
I can choose to do this and I can choose to do that, and I can, you know, talk to a nutritionist or a personal trainer
Hmm.
or do whatever. And that always sounds like a good idea. I'm wondering what's your experience? Do employees really engage in that and embrace that, or is it more of a good idea that few people use?
They embrace it if the culture in their company embraces it. Is kind of what we see. Like if there's someone that's kind of rah rah about it in the company and owns this, like we're gonna do steps challenges and we're gonna like, you know, like, you got to have a champion with that sort of thing. Like, people aren't going to rally together to do wellness things, but on an individual basis, yeah, I mean, sometimes people are like, I'll do the therapy, or I'll, make this individual election without any sort of like communal pressure to do these things. But usually, if I'm honest, no, it's food, entertainment, in terms of where they choose to spend their dollars. I so to me, I think that's one thing that I really enjoyed about sort of trying to pull the best elements of wellness platforms into Fringe and not try to do all of it, because I don't think it's all valuable necessarily.
Yeah,
Because the promise has always been, well, you're going to save the company money because people are going to be healthier and then the claims costs go down. And the whole thing was just an attempt to pay less insurance premiums. And I think everybody's already given up on that. Like, the insurance premiums are going up like big time. And, so to me, it's like, probably what's more important in this day and age, and like a loneliness epidemic, and everybody's separated and on Zoom and this and that, and they're all, kind of obsessed with personalization and who am I and image and all that. I think it's better to help people understand who they are in terms of wellness, like help them to have good self-awareness and know how to develop new skills and have confidence in their ability to sort of navigate a fast-paced changing world. Those are the sort of wellness things I think about, as opposed to a company trying to be like, go to the gym, see your doctor, like just like pushing people into these like medical events. Because the reason, again, why they were doing that is, one, keep you healthy so that you'll keep working, and two, try to save money on claims costs. But that's not a very holistic way to think about someone being well,
yeah,
at all.
yeah.
So
It
I'm trying
might
to
be
do it in a new way, I guess is the short.
it's a one-sided incentive, where
Yes,
theoretically it would make sense and that would be good for the company.
right.
And then you would say, well, if it's good for the company, it's good for the employee, but the employee always doesn't look at it that way, right?
No, they
Yeah,
don't.
sure,
They
for sure.
don't. I mean, there's not as much trust as we all wish that there was between
Well,
employer and
it's a good
employee.
segue because my next
Uh,
point was going to be, in doing some research for this, I've heard you have a theory on trust and what that
mm,
trust is. So I
yeah.
have mine as well. So you go first, and we'll see where we're at.
Man, just trust in general.
Well, I mean, it's
Um,
like you say that we need to build
mhm.
trust, and some people say you need to earn trust, and so
Oh, yeah.
what does trust really mean from from your perspective in providing these benefits?
Yeah, um, I don't want to prescribe for all of mankind the best way to treat people here, but like, if I just give in my own opinion, I like to I like to treat people as if they are the people that they're going to be. In
Yeah,
other words, I like to kind of place more belief in people and give over some trust and actually take that risk of trusting them on me. Like, I take the risk. And if they break that trust, depending on their reaction to that, like, it can be repaired or it could not, like it could be lost. But, one of our values as a company, we actually say trust is given, not earned. Like,
yeah,
I actually tell people that on their first day. And that's just the way we go about it, because I want to draw the best out of people instead of like forcing or pressuring the best out of people. Because I'm looking for wellness. I'm looking for people who actually are like healthy and like their job and are glad they have a job and enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like those people are far more productive long term than the super stressed out people that you just scare into action,
yeah.
you know?
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Had a talking to CEO and we were talking about trust. And he says, "Well, wait a minute. You mean you trust people? I mean you go into a situation trusting people?" And I said,
Mm,
I felt the same way you do. Yes, I go in trusting that I can trust this person, and then if something happens where I have to where it erodes, then of course you
right.
deal with it. And
Yeah.
he said, I can't believe it. He goes, I grew up in Brooklyn. We don't trust anybody. He said, I always go in like I don't trust anybody until
Yeah.
they show me that they earn it or that they're worthy of
Yeah.
my trust. Then I trust them. And
Yeah.
I just thought that was really an interesting perspective because my mindset is the total
Hmm.
opposite of that. And I just go in and to me, I think people appreciate that you trust them out of the gate. And then
Hmm.
if they screw up and you have to, even, with our kids too, same thing. You're in charge of this. I'll trust you as long as you do what you're supposed to do and what you
Yeah.
said you're going to do. But if
Yeah.
you don't, then you're in charge of that trust value.
Right. Yeah. Evidence, children, raising children is great evidence of the argument here, right? Because children react so well to being entrusted with things,
Yeah.
right? When you're like, you can tell your kid at the restaurant who's 10 years old, hey, you're going to order dinner. You got it? I'm not going to speak to the waiter. You're going to do it. You can read. Here's you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like, and I've heard of people doing that. I do different sorts of challenges with my kids, but I'm thinking about doing that one. And they just rise to it,
Yeah.
you know? But if you're always just stepping in front of them, like, yeah, I'll take that question. I'll protect you from that. You don't have to rise to that. You're not trusted with anything yet. Then they don't grow,
Yeah.
or they grow a lot more slowly. So to me, I'm like, why would you not treat employees the same way? To just go, I trust you.
Yeah.
Go. I think you get more out of people, but we can get him back on and we'll have a debate. It'll be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So in this space that you're in with your
Yeah.
company, what what is new and different? What are you going to do in the future?
Oh man.
What's the next phase? What do we do to get this idea going further than it is today?
Oh, one of the ideas is easy to get across, and one is hard. So the one that's easy is we need to consolidate software into fewer things for our customer to have to consume, deal with, the vendor management, the cost, the poor employees that have to log into like six different programs to find out where their benefits are and to find out where their paycheck and they're bouncing all over the internet and just trying to find information. So like I think everyone agrees there. Like the customer wants that, the software companies are working towards that, the private equity guys are out there sandwiching companies together right and left. Like the consolidation's happening, and we're leaning into that really hard because it makes sense. That's just how markets work. The other piece that's the headwind for a company like ours is how much do leaders value people right now?
Hmm.
Just to put it bluntly, like you see all these layoffs, and it's easy to demonize the company and be like, you monsters, you're laying off all these people, and it's easy to, you know, kind of victimize those that have been laid off, like, oh, I'm sure they were just perfect, diligent workers, and you know what I mean? Like, I get it, but at the same time, it's happening for a reason, and it's not because Amazon is out of money. Like they're good, they're good. This is about creating profit for their shareholders, obviously. But the reason why they're able to do it is because AI has simplified so many things that used to take a long time, and therefore certain tasks are no longer needed from people. And I believe that, over the course of time, there will be new things that are needed and yada, yada, yada. But the issue is like it's an uphill battle for a company selling HR tech because we're all about like invest in your people, you know? And companies are like, I think we'd rather lay them off than invest in them. And like that's tough, you know? So the thing I'm trying to convince leaders of, and I'm probably going to say on every podcast I'm on for the next like 12 months, is AI can do a whole lot of things, but what it can never ever do is build trust with other human beings. And
Yeah.
that's all business has ever been. It's just relationships. Whether you're trading in the local market, literally, a pumpkin for a squash, like, or you're doing it on the New York Stock Exchange. It's all just relationships and trust. At the end of the day, AI can never produce that. You're going to need people,
Yeah.
and you're going to need to invest in them, and you're going to need to attract the best. You need the best people you can possibly get because trust building is the game. And so if you want to win the game, you need people that can do that, So like, I I I hope to convince the leadership of all these companies, if I ever get a chance to talk to any of them, of just like, hey, don't lose sight of it. Like it's relationship at the end of the day. You automate everything you want, cool, but like don't forget it's about the people.
It's interesting how things change too. There's an
Yeah.
international PR firm that I'm familiar with, and every year they send out a survey to their clients and say what, you know, basically that's what it is. Who do you trust? In other words, who
Mm.
do you get your information from in the world, and who do you believe? And back in the 70s and 80s, if 1970s and 80s, if you were to say, oh, I trust my company to give me information about the current, world events and whatever, then
Right.
no one would ever say that.
Right.
But as religion has gone down a bit, as our political world is so polarized, you don't know who's saying what and what they're saying, and depends on what side of the fence you're on. And
Right.
all these things are happening that in the last decade, a lot of people are coming back and they're saying they trust their companies to give
Mm.
them that information, which
Wow.
is a huge shift and a trend that you wouldn't have seen way back when. So I do
Yeah.
think there's a certain responsibility, and I do think there's also a certain amount of what do we learn from that, that people
Mm.
are looking for to trust something because it's hard to trust so many things these days.
I know it's really a shame, man. You mentioned like the church falling off, but also or all religions really, but also like just the community stuff. Like
Yeah,
how many, I mean, when I was a kid, you could go to like the Veteran Affairs, any of those types of places. There's just chock full of men in there, all with like a common experience, something that they went through together, and like it was community. It wasn't church, it wasn't work, it was just community. And there's just so little of that in person now. Like we don't even talk at the grocery store because we're just picking up the food on the way home because we got them to wheel it out to the truck. You know what I mean? So like
yeah,
there's so few opportunities for community now that people find it at work, and I think that's why it's so devastating for people when they get laid off because they're like, well, they're my friends,
yeah,
and this is like the brand that we're under and like wearing the shirt and we believe and we're all in and we're, you know what I mean? And there's
yeah.
some prestige sometimes with larger companies too, but I don't know. You're right. It's people are already lonely, already struggling to connect with each other, and then they lose their one like tether of community, and
Yeah.
like no wonder they're so upset.
I can remember I was happened to be in the car dealership to have my car serviced the day after the 2024 presidential election.
Oh
And
wow.
we all know how that went down.
Yeah.
And I was in there for probably 2 hours waiting for my car to get serviced, and there's other people around and all the employees and whatever. I did not hear one word about the election, not one word, because people are afraid to say something because that's going
Wow.
to label you, or that's going to
Yeah.
put you in a position where you have to defend yourself or defend your opinion or
Right.
whatever. And that
Can't
just
just talk.
it
Yeah, you
just
can't just
struck me
talk.
as being so weird. I mean, wouldn't somebody at least say, can hey, wasn't that amazing, or was can you believe, or
Right.
something, not one word
Anything.
about it. it
Yeah.
it really shocked me.
Wow. That is weird. That
Yeah.
must have been a surreal experience. You're like, "Ah, you're not thinking about that. I'm thinking about it. You're probably thinking about it. Let's talk about it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in your opinion just because your career has been in this HR world and whatever. What do you think we're going to do with even though I know you don't provide it in your company, but
Yeah.
health benefit or medical benefits, health insurance? What what are companies going to do? Are they just going to continue to pay the escalating prices as we go more and more? Is it going to come to a point where businesses are going to say, "Okay, we're not providing this anymore," and
Yeah.
you have to find it on your own, or we have to, expect a universal program through the government? Or, I mean, what do you think's going to happen? Do you have an opinion?
I mean, the only way you can get prices down on things is, well, two ways, but one of them's never going to happen. One way is you get people to stop suing everybody over nothing, right?
Yeah,
Because that's driving the liability insurance to the absolute roof for all these medical providers. it's so much of their cost that it doesn't matter like how efficient they are with every single patient. They're just under this weight of a ton of expense as business owners. And that, if we could do that, that'd be great. I'm not sure we're ever going to get there with that type of law. The other thing is you get more efficient. And the only way to get more efficient with insurance is you got to make your risk pool. I used to sell insurance. You got to make your risk pool bigger. So that's why universal, I think, is what gets discussed. I don't think it necessarily needs to be run through the government, but just make larger pools of risk so that the risk is more predictable. That will incrementally drive costs down. But but the whole system, obviously has like a fundamental flaw. So I think what will happen in the employer employee space is employers are just going to go, this is the amount of money we give you for health insurance. And it'll just be, here's your salary, here's your health insurance stipend. And it might be, $30,000 or something, but it's just, here it is. Good luck.
And
You
you
know,
can have a program that we use that you can enroll in, or if there's something on the outside, you can do that as well.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason why companies started doing health insurance to begin with was because during the Second World War, the government said that we couldn't increase wages. We, like I was there, but companies couldn't increase wages, and
Yeah.
so they had to compete on something. So they're like, well, we can't pay you anymore. We'll pay for your medical. So like it's not really a needed thing necessarily, but it's just funny. It's so ingrained in like this
Yeah.
is what employee benefits are. It's health insurance. But like, I don't know, is it? You know?
And it's just, just on a personal level here, a couple things come to mind. When I
Yeah.
look at what I pay as a fairly healthy person, healthy
Yeah.
person. So I pay my premium, I pay my supplemental thing. When I look at that and I say, holy cow, I don't even come close to
Right.
spending that in the medical marketplace that I'm in for me personally.
Right.
But yet I know that if something catastrophic happens or something big happens, then I need that. So I mean that's the world of insurance, right?
That's it.
I can
Yeah.
remember I'm a physical therapist, and when I was treating patients, I was treating this guy who didn't think that through real well. He was in his 20s. He goes, "Look, I pay all this for health insurance, and I never use it, and I never get any benefit out of it. So I'm a healthy young person. Why should I do that?" So he canceled his health insurance, and
Oh.
about 6 weeks later, he got mugged at an ATM machine late at night, had this horrible injury, all this stuff, and it's just like, oh God. It's just, but you can see why people might make that decision, yet it's a
Yeah.
horrible decision because if you have some bad luck on the other end, you're screwed.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Health insurance is one of those things that because the numbers are big, I think people feel like they have to have like this really comprehensive insurance policy because they can't imagine themselves like covering a $20,000 expense. It's too much, but that I think that's okay. Like that's a good reason for insurance. When you're scared of the $500 expense or the $100 expense because you're living so tight,
Yeah.
you're living at that point where you're just not below your means, like you probably could be for most people if they tighten up, then you just need catastrophic coverage. And that's kind of what's going on with the math with health insurance is that we're trying to cover all of the risk as opposed to covering just the catastrophic risk.
Right.
Catastrophic risk is very cheap to cover. You think about like term life insurance. Like you can go buy a life insurance policy for $1 million for 25 bucks at my age, but it expires, in 20 years, and I'm probably not going to die, so they're going to keep all of that money,
Yeah.
right? That's the point. But somebody's going to die in that time frame, and we've pooled the risk and we've gathered the resources and we've covered that risk as a group of payers into that policy. So if we treated health insurance more like a catastrophic need and the medical industry was based off of a more direct payment system and therefore was like reasonable
Yeah.
cost and not
Right.
these inflated things that are caused by insurance, um, I think it could work. We just have to decide to take on the personal responsibility for our own health and go, okay, let's do this thing. I'm gonna pay $600 a month for this concierge doctor, and he's gonna make house calls, and like it can be done. It just is. We have to go back to more of like a small town way, you know.
Yeah, and we build up these expectations, back in the day, politicians would always say, basically healthcare is free. It doesn't cost you anything. You just either your company pays for it, or if you're
Right.
over 65, the government pays for it and it's free. And
Sure.
we all know that's true. So, or not true. So it's just kind of one of those things that we're led to these biases based on
Hmm.
past experiences or past things that we've come to expect,
Yeah.
and it comes to a point where the system's going to break.
Yeah. And it's just such a big and complicated system with so many different players in it that aren't all aligned with the same incentive. So if it's a type of thing where somebody can figure out how everyone can win, then we'd have got it done already. But somebody's going to have to lose.
Uh,
And it's either going to be the medical industry, and doctors are going to make a lot less money and all of that, or it's going to be the insurance industry. Like somebody's got to take the hit, to fix the system.
well, and I have my own personal opinion, but
Yeah.
who's making the money now? Just watch the commercials at all the
Yeah.
football games and
Yeah.
whatever. It's mostly insurance.
Insurance companies can afford it a heck of a lot more than the medical
Yeah,
companies
I
can.
would
Yeah.
agree. Well,
They're
Jordan,
small
in
business.
in anticipation of our discussion today, what haven't we talked about, or what haven't I brought up that you want to be sure and get in the program today?
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I think if anybody's listening, to this in the context, like, oh, I was curious about Fringe, well, then a few things I could say about that.
Sure, go ahead.
Um, which would just be one, we just released what we're calling Fringe 2.0. I think I described to Steve, we did lifestyle benefits and we did rewards and recognition, and now we've expanded out into 7 different programs, and we just launched all that in October. So um, we're if you're an HR person, come to the website, you'll quickly find out that there's an enormous amount of savings to be had and efficiency to be had moving into a modern solution like this. So I wanted to say that. And then also, if like
Is
just from a
that
content,
fringe.com? Is that fringe.com?
it's .us,
Okay.
.us, I like to say.
Fringe.us. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then from a content standpoint, like I host a podcast and do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. So if folks want to follow me on LinkedIn and get more content like this, that's the place to find me.
Yeah, great. Well, Jordan, at this point in the interview, I always ask my guests the same common question. So that
Yeah.
question is in relation to leadership. What is a pearl of wisdom that you could leave us with today?
Oh boy. Um, that I haven't shared already. I don't have that many pearls, Steve. Um, I think something I've learned. Oh, well, something I've learned in the past couple of years where I made a big mistake. Um, I'm a real kind of hopeful, future-oriented, big picture type of thinker. And so I imagine that everyone is sometimes. I forget that that's not true.
Oh,
And so sometimes, when I lead my company, the way I communicate with my company is in a way that's very potentially inspiring about the future and how big and grandiose everything could be. But as a result of the communication being like that, it's not very present oriented and not very empathetic to what people are doing now or praising what they've just accomplished this week, because I'm living out here in the future. And so one thing I'd say about leadership is don't underestimate how much an encouragement, a compliment, a recognition, a thanks for doing that, a great, that being in the present and making sure that people know that you value them routinely, just like any other relationship, like a marriage or parenting or whatever, you got to communicate consistently that you value your employee, your direct report, whatever your context is. Just make sure to do that because we're losing touch as human beings, and people are struggling to remember that they're valuable. And so to be told that they are is a really helpful thing right now.
It always surprises me when people only communicate or only say things to their teams or their employees or whatever when there's something wrong or something needs to be changed or, in the negative. And study after study after study after study after experience shows you that praise goes way further than any retribution, or
Right.
criticism. So it's just
Yeah.
sometimes it shocks me that people don't embrace that. Just like you said, you've got to just be positive and give people recognition, and whether that's through programs like yours, which are very beneficial, but also in a leadership perspective of, tell people when they did a good job and appreciate what they've done and tell them that they are providing value. That goes way further than any reprimand.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's what really matters. We're just a software tool to help do it. But what really matters is the actual praise. Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Well, Jordan, this has been a pleasure. Thanks a lot for being on the program today. It sounds like you're doing some fun and exciting things and valuable to the business world. So appreciate your efforts in that. And thanks for being on today.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, well, take care and have a good rest of your day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. To listen to all my interviews, subscribe to Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and many other popular podcast platforms. Some of these interviews are on video, and you can search YouTube for Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson. You can also access the entire library of interviews on my website, orange.coaching.com, and that is orangetheword.coaching.com, and go to the Media Center and click on Podcasts or Video Gallery. You can also enter the website from pilpodcast.com.